Right now, as you're watching this video, someone in a distant land is dying for the gold in your jewelry. Two armies, same country, tearing each other apart. Not for freedom, not for democracy, but for control of something that's probably sitting in your drawer right now. 150,000 dead, millions fleeing, and the world silent. They say gold shines brightest in the darkest places, but in Sudan, that shine has turned into fire. This is the untold story of Sudan's war for gold. Viewers, let me make one thing absolutely clear from the start. At the center of Sudan's devastating condition that you're witnessing today stands one shining metal: gold. According to the world's mineral experts, Sudan's soil may contain approximately 1,550 metric tons of gold reserves, making it one of Africa's largest reserves. Each year, more than 100 tons of gold are mined from this country, most of which disappears into the black market outside government records, where the defense forces' duty should be to protect the country from external enemies. Why are Sudan's two defense forces, the RSF and SAF, standing face to face against each other? A brutal war is raging in Sudan, a war where no one knows who the enemy is and who the friend. Tanks roam the city streets, homes are destroyed, children flee at the sound of gunfire. Army versus army, brother versus brother. The power struggle has reached a point where human lives have been reduced to mere numbers. Already, more than 150,000 people have been killed. Millions are displaced. They've even become refugees in their own country. Before the world's eyes, the name of what was once a proud Muslim nation is slowly being erased: the Republic of Sudan. This civil war in Sudan began on April 15, 2023. From that day until now, an endless nightmare has been unfolding in Sudan. However, no one could have imagined Sudan would meet such a fate. But what happened that caused the wildfire of civil war to spread across the country like this? What objectives drove generals who were once allies to become enemies? And who is really pulling the strings behind this war? You might be thinking that a country with such enormous gold reserves must have wealthy citizens living luxurious lives, but the reality is completely opposite. This gold has become not a blessing, but a curse for the people of Sudan. In the deserts of Northern Sudan, where temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius, hundreds of people, children and elderly alike, spend all day searching for gold with hammers and sieves. They have no other work in their lives. If they find a little gold, perhaps they can live decently for a few days. If not, they must spend their days with hunger, thirst, and despair as their only companions. On one side is the government army, on the other, the paramilitary force. Both sides want to keep control of the gold mines stained with the blood of innocent people. To properly understand this game of control, we need to go back to 1956, when Sudan gained independence. Though that dream of independence was shattered instantly, because power struggles, ethnic and religious discrimination began between North and South Sudan. The result was one coup after another, military rule and civil wars. Amid this instability, one military figure rose to power: Omar Al-Bashir. In 1989, he seized power in Sudan through a coup. He claimed, "I have come to restore peace to the country, to ensure justice and security." And indeed, in the early days of Bashir's rule, the country seemed to stabilize somewhat. The war in South Sudan stopped, oil sales increased, the sound of gunfire diminished here and there. But the peace didn't last long, because Bashir couldn't control himself from the lure of gold either. After 2000, gold began to be discovered beneath Sudan's soil. It's said this country has more than 1,500 metric tons of gold, one of Africa's largest reserves. As soon as this news spread, Bashir's army, militias, and even foreign companies started a new war in the name of gold mining. Gold politics slowly dragged the country back into fire. During that time, under Bashir's leadership, a paramilitary organization was formed to control this gold: the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. They fought for Bashir on one side, while building their own empire by seizing gold mines on the other. Leading this organization was Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hemedti. At one time, Bashir and Hemedti were allies, one the country's president, the other his most trusted military commander. But history's eternal truth is that power can never be shared. and that's exactly what happened. Gradually, their relationship broke down, and a silent conflict began. Bashir initially thought gold would make him invincible, but this very gold ultimately became the cause of his downfall. In 2019, when people took to the streets, the army that should have stood by him instead turned against him. After that, Bashir's army and Hemedti's RSF split into two factions, and after Bashir's fall, a new power struggle began between them. As a result, in April 2023, the capital Khartoum suddenly roared with the sound of gunfire. Two armies of the same country stood face to face. On one side, the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF. On the other, the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, which I mentioned earlier. The fire of this conflict instantly spread throughout the country. Millions of people fled their homes, a modern tragedy where the lines between enemy and ally blur together. The main cause of the war is that both sides wanted control of the country's gold. Sudan's Darfur, Nuba Mountains, and Blue Nile regions, these aren't just ordinary mines, they're sources of billions of dollars in wealth. The RSF built its own financial empire through gold exports, with foreign businessmen and some influential states as their allies. On the other hand, the government army wants to bring this wealth under state control. Because in today's world, it's difficult to survive without money. And the main victims of this battle for gold control are the ordinary people there. So far, about 7 million people have lost everything in this war. At the end of the day, some are heading toward the desert, some are fleeing across borders, simply hoping to survive. Many believe that global powers also have a hand in this terrible conflict. Some are supporting the government forces, while others are helping the RSF. Dear viewers, I mentioned at the beginning that according to mineral analysts, more than 100 tons of gold are extracted from Sudan each year, but more than half of it disappears from government records. This gold goes through unknown routes, sometimes in truck convoys, sometimes in airplane cargo. Most of the time, it crosses into neighboring countries' borders. Later, it's sold in international markets as black market gold. But who conducts this smuggling? The answer will surprise you quite a bit. Because people from both sides, the government army SAF and the paramilitary force RSF, are involved in this. They use local workers to illegally extract gold, which is then sold to foreign businessmen. Many say a large portion of this gold export goes to companies in the Middle East and Europe. But the story becomes even more complex when several international reports claim that the RSF forces are selling their extracted gold abroad to acquire weapons and funds for war. For this reason, the government forces are also secretly exporting gold to cover their economic deficits. As a result, a kind of gold war economy has developed there, where each bullet, each tank is fueled by pieces of gold. Many believe that foreign businessmen and some influential countries are using this conflict for their own interests. Speaking of which, Dubai's name comes up first. You might be surprised to hear this. Dubai, that glittering city of nighttime luxury and sky-high towers. Yes, that Dubai. But beneath this illuminated city lies a dark story that begins in Africa's sandy deserts and ends in the Middle East's gold markets. Most of Sudan's smuggled gold ends up in Dubai. That's why Dubai is today one of the world's largest gold trading centers. A large portion of the sparkling jewelry you see in the gold markets here originates from Sudan, Congo, or Africa. Dubai's gold business essentially becomes legitimate through the refining process. That is, gold that comes from war zones becomes legitimate gold once it passes through Dubai's refineries. This is how blood-stained gold transforms into commercial products. The same gold that's spilling blood on Sudan's soil is glittering in Dubai's markets. However, it must be mentioned that the Dubai government has never directly acknowledged these allegations. Rather, they've said, "We conduct gold trade while maintaining international standards." But if you think only Dubai is involved in this war, you're mistaken, because the shadow of this war has also fallen from Moscow's direction. Sudan's gold is now part of an international resource war, and Russia extended its hand toward this gold stream long ago, especially Russia's private military group, Wagner, which has been expanding its influence in various African countries for a long time. Wagner's presence in Sudan was first detected around 2017, when the country's former president Omar Al-Bashir was in power. It's said that Bashir's government was struggling under Western sanctions at the time, so they wanted an ally who would provide them with weapons and protect them from international pressure. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Russia entered Sudan as an ally. From that time, the Russian company Mero Gold began working in Sudan, known as Wagner's partner organization. Their job was gold mining, export, and logistics control. On one hand, they're extracting gold from Sudan. On the other, with the money from selling that gold, Sudan is buying weapons from Russia. And many observers are therefore saying that Russia is benefiting from both sides of this process.